I hope your day's been going pretty well. It's, the wrong window open there. Alright, so yeah, I hope you're all doing pretty good. Yeah, last week has been kind of hard for me. I mean, we found out that my dog is pretty sick, so unfortunately I've been having to spend a lot of time nursing to her, so that's kind of why streams have been kind of weird this week. I'm only going to commit to streaming on Monday and Thursday for the next, well, just however long I need to, and hopefully I'll be able to start back every weekday pretty soon, but we'll see. But onto a happier note, you might notice that the Unity editor looks a little different. That's because Unity 2019.3 was released out of beta, and the most obvious change is that they've redone the interface a little bit. Mostly it's just got a new coat of paint. There's not a whole lot of different tools available that I've seen so far. The most exciting thing for me, though, is that they have a whole lot of changes to the entity package. So be sure that you want to update to 0.3. Yeah, if you're using entities. I guess let's look. If we look on the changelog, we can see the big picture. Oh, they actually have they done an update since I last looked at this? Okay, well I've got the most recent one here. But yeah, when I looked at the changelog yesterday, they actually hadn't done this part yet. But okay, so with the entity manager you can create an entity. Oh, so you can create a number of entities and then it will put it into array. That's kind of interesting. Before you had to do a loop. Okay. And then they've changed some some function names here because technically the system is still in beta, so sometimes they have to change names and functionality. Probably the biggest thing that I saw was that you can put in what's called a managed object, which is basically just a C# normal object that stays on the heap. Or yeah, basically a non-blittable type. And used to, you couldn't really use those in entities, but now you can just tag them with iComponent. I'm trying to find where it describes it. But basically you can just give them the component interface and then you can add them to an entity and Unity will take care of everything. So that's pretty cool. I don't know if we'll need it that much for this couple of next few streams just because of the algorithms we're going to be working on, but we'll see. Yeah, I haven't got a whole lot of time to play around with this stuff because like I said, I've been pretty busy, but I'll definitely want to be testing things out. So let's get back to the actual project. Once it loads. Oh, you know what? Yeah, they also have a new quick build option. I should probably turn that on and see if that works. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm not sure exactly where that is. I guess we'll find out. But you know, it's probably not in the player settings. It's probably in the editor settings. Oops, I just clicked the same thing. Preferences. Yeah, there's something new called a quick build, which makes you be able to enter play mode a lot faster. Maybe I shouldn't play with this on stream because I haven't had a chance to play with it myself. But yeah, so that is another cool new feature. But anyway, so the game we're working on here is, if you've ever played the card game called Concentration, or I always knew it as Memory, but basically there's going to be a grid of cards, and each card will have a specific face on it. So just imagine these are the cards, and they're all placed face down, and so when it's your turn, you guess 2 cards to reveal, and if they match, then you'll get a point. If they don't match, then the cards are placed back in the same spot face down, and the next person goes. So you kind of have to remember which cards have been revealed and try to remember where pairs might be. So we're going to make a Twitch interactive version, so Twitch viewers will be able to guess, and then the game will pick a guess and reveal it, and people will accumulate points which they can spend to change the rules of the game or have like fancy pictures. Oh yeah, and the face on each of the cards will also be a viewer's logo. So I think should be pretty cool. We've tested a lot of stuff, but we're kind of still making the main gameplay loop for the actual game. Alright, so let's see. I think, oh yeah, we were doing the system. So the game already takes guesses from chat and stores them. I guess I should show that off. Okay, so yeah, I'm noticing it's taking considerably longer to enter play mode now, so I probably need to turn on that quick build option. Maybe it's when you have it off by default, they recompile everything or something. I'm not exactly sure. But, so... Oh yeah, also now you can name entities, which you used to not be able to do. Yeah, sorry, I'm just realizing. But yeah, probably it'd be nice for me to set these entity names when we create them. I'll have to look into how to do that. Anyway, so I'm going to type in a command, so I'm going to guess tiles A1 and A2, and we can see this guess has gone, and then and then what happened was the game entered into, like, we have a 5-second timer. Oh, why is this running so interesting? And once the 5-second timer goes out, then the game will just pick a guess, and then it would reveal it. But we haven't got that far yet. We're working on the system that will actually pick the guess. Was it throwing that error? Yeah, so it's throwing not implemented. Okay, the reason it was doing that is because it was trying to run this system when I hadn't implemented this yet, so I just threw that so I'd remember where I was. Alright, so let's see about naming entities real quick. I think that would be kind of interesting. For example, we have this entity here, which we use to just store components that control the game flow, like what phase that the game is in right now. And so it'd be nice if I could maybe rename this. Actually, I don't know the syntax to name entity. Okay, so yeah, we just set the name here. I wonder, can I set it in create entity? So the archetype types. No. Okay, so yeah, you just have to do set name. I'll just call this flow singleton. Alright, so let's see if that shows up. I don't know why it wouldn't, but I've never done this before, so... Okay, yeah, things take considerably longer to load now. Or compile, I guess I should say. Let's see. Unity 2019.3, quick play. Okay, so what I wanted to look now is in the entity debugger, and we can see, okay, so the flow singleton is now named. That's kind of interesting. I do like naming them, that way we don't have to try to click on them to see what they're called. Alright, so I've pulled up this web page. So, file, project settings, editor. Okay, so let's see. I don't see the project settings, but yeah, they're in edit actually. Okay, so enter play mode options. Where's the quick mode? Okay, these options allow you to disable domain and or scene reloading from the enter play mode process when there are no code changes. You can also access this feature through an API and callback. This feature is currently in experimental, and not all Unity packages are validated to work with the updated domain and scene reloading. How to modify your scripts correctly when you've disabled domain reload. You need to make adjustments to static fields and static event handlers in your scripts to ensure your scripting states reset correctly when play mode is entered. So the following code example has a counter which goes up when the player presses the jump button. When domain reloading is enabled, the counter automatically resets to 0. But if you disable domain reloading, the counter doesn't reset. Oh, I see. Use the runtime initialize onload method attribute and reset the value explicitly to make sure the counter resets. Okay. That's kind of interesting. But that does open up the code to quite a bit of bugs. But I guess since most of our code is actually from in entities, I don't know if it would really matter that much. Might as well try it out. Okay, that was a lot faster. And then if I play again... Yeah, now we're getting exceptions. Okay, let's just restart it. Okay, yeah, so we can just use this same method to run something when the game first opens. Okay, yeah, and also, yeah, I've done this before. So probably now, if we don't do domain reloading, Unity won't unregister method from static event handlers. So for instance, in this command singleton, probably this static value would stay forever. So what I need to do, let's see. Use the runtime initialize onload method and unregister the method explicitly so that it isn't added twice. Oh, okay. Alright, so I can see, yeah, this will speed up testing, but then of course we have to deal with all these changes. Let's see what happens when we press when we play, and then if I stop, is there any entities still there? No. Okay, and now when I restart, it's saying that there's a bunch of okay, so let's look here. Tilepale worker random has been deallocated. All containers must be valid when scheduling a job. So let's look and see what that's talking about. Okay, so this main random didn't get generated again. When does that happen? It's the random sequence initializer, I think. So maybe is on destroy not? Oh no, on destroy is getting called. Is it not being created again? Oh, see, that would be. I'm not sure how I would handle that if on create's not being called again. Okay, well, that's interesting. I think yeah, I'll mess around with that some more, maybe off stream, to see if I can figure out how to do that. But obviously, this doesn't really have much to do with the actual project, so I think I'll turn it off. And I think Unity is going to complain to me about deallocated or unallocated arrays, so I'll just reload it one more time. Okay, so there was one interesting thing. Okay, well obviously we can name our entities. Maybe we'll continue doing that for a second. Let's see, so we have the board creator, might as well name this one. The world entity manager, set name. If I can type the B without pressing the V key. And let's see, where else do we create entities? I won't worry about like events because they don't last that long, but I think it'd be nice to name guesses and like the tiles and images and things like that. Okay, so this board initializer creates entities. Oh, but it's doing it through a post update commands. I wonder, can you set the name from here? No, okay. Well, that's kind of a shame. So we can't set the name if we're using command buffer, or at least the post update commands. Could set this, I guess. Yeah, so I don't know, since you can't set the names from the post-update commands, I guess you'd have to deal with it some other way. Because you'd have to make like another system that would look for the entities when the next frame after they're created and then set the name. It's kind of more trouble than it's worth, I think. And then when are the... I think the guesses are created at the chat command handler. Yeah, so it's also a buffer. Let's see, can this buffer set the name? No, okay. So yeah, I'll have to look into that a little more. But at least now if we play, we can see a couple more named entities. It'd be nice if you could name them, because it does help with debugging. Yeah, it definitely takes longer to... Okay, I don't know what that error is about. They're not messing with the... Okay, yeah, so I can name this time entity. Except I think this is actually made by Unity itself. I think I read about that. So it's not exactly the same as the time entity that we have. So, and yeah, because last stream we talked about setting up our own time flow so we could deal with pauses. And it's still the same here, even though Unity has automatically created this time entity for us. We can't really use it because, again, we can't pause this time, so... Anyway, so why is this complaining? I'm not trying to use any input. And I don't know why it's suddenly complaining now. That's very strange. Oh. That's weird. This got corrupted somehow? The UI event system? Yeah, because these numbers are all weird. I'm gonna reload the project and see if that fixes itself. If not, we'll just recreate it. Yeah, I always like to work with the cutting edge Unity editors, but obviously as you can see there's some risks to doing it, but this project is kind of just more for fun to do on stream, so I don't mind too much if I have to deal with some growing pains. Let's see, did it fix it? It did. Okay, so I don't know what exactly happened there, but it just got corrupted at some point, so just reloading Unity fixed it. Okay, so anyway. Okay, so let's get back to the algorithm that I was planning to work on. Clean this up a little bit. Yeah, the featured guest picker. So, okay, let's look again at this. So we have a native array, which holds all the tile guesses. I do have a query for that. And then a list where we filter these guesses only for the unique ones. We could even do this as an iJob parallel for filter, which would work because what that would do is just return, well, Unity would build a list of entities that passed a test in the execute. It's kind of built in, but I kind of wanted to do it this way just so we could get the tiles directly. And then we'd pass that to this next job. But I'm not sure if I can add values to this list concurrently in a job. I think that Unity might give me an error that there's going to be a race condition. But we'll see about that. And then this next job will take the native list of unique guesses, which is passed from here. Also a pointer basically to this random number. And then a command buffer, and then the entity archetype that it will create. So, and it just picks one guess from this list and then creates an entity to hold that information. So pretty simple. Okay, and this was set to run only during the pick guess phase, and also when there's at least one guess. So we don't have to worry about checking that. First we need to get a list of all guesses, so let's go ahead and do that. Guess query, and we'll just call cast, well not cast this, but change it into a component data array. Okay, that's interesting. So now I guess they cleaned up the API. Probably, maybe they're going to get rid of this one. Yeah, because it has always confused me because they have a 2-component array which returns like a C# array, which you don't really want to work with because it can't be passed to jobs and also generates garbage. And then they have this 2-component data array which returns a native array. But it looks like they also have an option now that if you don't specify an allocation type, that it will just return a C# array. So I bet they're going to get rid of the 2-component array function pretty soon. But anyway, so we want to set this as a temporary job, which means that this array will be disposed as soon as these jobs are finished with it. And I'm also going to get a job handle out, which just tells Unity that it can delay filling out the values in this until yeah, it could just delay doing it and we'll do it on another thread. So this is the guess query handle, or I guess I'll put depths for dependency. And what's it not like? Oh, I don't have a type argument, so I want this to be a tile guess. So we'll pick all the tile guess off of every entity that's inside this query. And then we need to create the native list. Now before we had to create native lists in the system because Unity had no way to dispose of them after our jobs run. But now they actually have a way to do that, so we can just create the native list now, and we don't have to hold it around in memory. Oh, what am I doing? So this will be unique guesses equals new native list. And again, this will be a temporary job allocation. Oh yeah, and it wants to know how much values to set in here. I'm trying to think what a good... Let's just start with 8. It doesn't really matter. Because yeah, whenever this list... How a native list really works is it's kind of a pointer to an array list, and it creates... Or I mean, it's a pointer to a native array. And so it creates a native array of this size when you create the list, but then if we overgrow the native array, then it will dispose of it and create another one that's bigger. So you kind of want to have a value here that hopefully won't be overflowed, but it kind of just depends how many guesses we have. Could do something like, I don't really know, I mean, if I really wanted to, I could do something like the logarithm of the number of guesses, but it's not really a huge deal. Anyway. Now we can actually schedule the jobs. Dependencies, and to do that we create a new instance of the job and then pass the data it needs. So submitted would be guesses, and then unique would be the unique guesses. And then we just call the schedule function. And first, since this is an iJob parallel for, you want to tell it how many times it's going to iterate. And that is, we want to run once for each submitted job. Oh, yeah. Should be guesses.length. And then it's going to ask this inner loop batch count is kind of like if it runs. So it would spawn a thread for, well, basically as many threads as it needs to run this job in parallel. And what will happen is it will run 2 indexes, or I guess however many you pass here will run on the same thread before it creates any more. So if you pass 1, it will create a thread for each item, which I think I'll do that for now because this work is relatively intensive. Let's see. And there's a little bit of overhead with creating a thread, which is why it gives you this option. But it's, I wouldn't worry about I guess, what's the right word? Optimizing it until you have already made most of the game and you need to actually worry about that kind of thing. Dependencies. Okay, so now we want this job to run after the input dependencies and also after this query has been filled out. So we combine them right there and then pass it to schedule. Okay, and then we want this job to run after this job. So in order to do that, we just create, I just forgot what it's called, the pick guest job. Okay, and then we just need to pass the array list through and the random number. Okay, so we need to do something with that. And then also, yeah, the buffer and the archetype, which we haven't created yet. But first, I'll go ahead and schedule it. So yeah, we just passed the job handle, which is just the handle from the last worker. So since we use this random number, we also need to make sure that no other jobs use the random number while this job is working. In order to do that, I have a helper function, or a helper class. Oh, it's just a job handle. I thought did I not bring that? Yeah, I have this read write dependency helper. Okay, that's what I wanted to use. But wait, I don't really need that for this because if you ever use the random number generator, you're gonna always read and write to it. So I can just combine the dependencies from the previous job and then also any other jobs that might have used the random number sequence. And then I need to be sure to set this random dependencies to the dependencies returned from this job so that any other job would wait until this one's finished before it tries to use the random sequence. Okay, what else do we need? So we need the buffer. Okay, in order to do that, I need to get a reference to the buffer I want to use. Buffer system. So this runs in the simulation system group. let's have this one run at the beginning of the next frame, so it will pick something and then on the next frame that entity will be created. So in that case, we want the buffer system to be get existing system, so it would be the begin initialization command buffer system, and hook that up. We just call the buffer system and tell it to create a command buffer. And then you want to make sure that the buffer system does not run until this job is complete. And in order to do that, you just add the dependencies to it. Alright, and then the last thing is we need the entity archetype for the entity that this last worker will create. So let's call this picked archetype. And so in order to create an archetype, you first get the entity manager and call it create archetype. And this just tells the system what components to add to the entity when it's created. And I think it's just picked. Or I think I call it the featured guess. Yeah. I think that's about it. So now I just need to return these dependencies to Unity so that the job systems can, anything that runs after this system will also be able to rely on any dependencies here. So if I guess the next thing to do is test it, and specifically I want to make sure that we don't get an error here. And I'm also going to turn off burst compile quickly so that I can log any unique guesses found. So unique guess found, and then we'll just do L1 and file 2, and we'll want to make sure that there's no duplicates here when we tested. I guess I could also do something like duplicate guess found, or I guess I'll just call it, say, thrown out. And then I can have something here that will print out the featured guess. I guess I should go after this line so I can use that variable. So now we should have a pretty good documentation of what this algorithm is doing. It's going to take it a little bit to compile. Something that happened in this system has definitely slowed down the compile time. In this update, I'll need to research about that. Because one thing I did like about Unity is the compile time was pretty fast. But I know Unity has been using more and more C++ in the background, which is kind of slow to compile, so that might be why. I guess I shouldn't complain because it will make the game run faster, but... Okay, so I want to test a bunch of guesses. So I'm going to turn back on our guess tester object, and so now I can press different keys to have different guesses entered into the system for me. Alright, so this injected guess entities in mass from one user, and then it waited for 5 seconds, and something is happening. So find unique guess worker unique is not declared read only and iJob parallel for. And the container does not support parallel writing. Okay, so I thought I read that it does support parallel writing, but I wasn't convinced. And obviously, I was right to not be convinced because it does not. Also, this unique guesses, I forgot to dispose of it. So the way you can dispose of it outside of a job is you can do unique guesses dot dispose and pass in some dependencies, and then it will dispose after these dependencies. Oh yeah, and so it also returns more dependencies for the job that actually handles disposing it. Okay, so well, I guess we might not even need it now because now we know that we can't add to this list. And there seems to not be a native list parallel writer. Okay, it has this as parallel writer, but returns a native array. I guess that, so then it would not be, ooh, I'm sorry. Then it would not be resizable, which doesn't really work. How can it be? I'll need to, I don't know how that would work. Because if it's a native array, it doesn't have an add command. Because it's just an array, not a list. But thankfully I do know another way to do it. We can just handle this with iParallel job, or iJob parallel for filter. And so now, instead of just returning a unique guess, we will return true or false depending on if index. Yeah, so this might actually be a little bit faster. Okay, so now we don't even need to pass this. Okay, and not sure why it's wanting a list there. Okay, let's look at the options here. So we can take a hash map, not what we want. Oh, right, I think it's a different function. So I need to call schedule, yeah, so we want to call schedule filter. Or yeah, we do. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we actually want to do schedule append. So I was trying to remember the difference. Schedule filter takes a list and then it calls the job once for every value in the list, and if returned false, then it removes it from the list. Schedule append runs for a certain amount of times that you tell it to, and then every time the worker returns true, it adds that index to the list that you pass. So we still need the unique guesses, but we need to change it into an int list. And we want it to run once per guess, so we can just do guesses length. Again, inner loop batch count all set to 1, and it'll have the same dependencies. Okay, and so now I need to change this to an integer, and I also need to pass in the native array of all guess information. So it's the same as this, really. I'll do that. Oh, also I think I need to dispose of this guesses array, and in order to do that, I can just tag it with a deallocate on job completion. And so Unity will automatically dispose of this when this job is complete. It only works for native arrays, though. I'm not really sure why they have two different ways to handle it. I wonder, should I get used to using this way to dispose? I kind of have a feeling I should, so I'm going to do something like that. Because I wonder if they'll get rid of this deallocate on job completion attribute. I don't know, but also technically I could combine these because they don't depend on each other. I do kind of like this way because it lets the deallocation be up in this bookkeeping function instead of down in the job logic. So I kind of like it like that. So anyway, we're past a native list, and so when we pick the featured index, this is actually an integer now, so let's see. This is getting confusing. Let's call this random number. Okay, and then the featured guess is just submitted guesses. Featured guess index. Okay, so yeah, so we basically just pick an item out of this native list at random, and then we can use that, which is the index in the submitted guess array, to the actual guess we want to use. Okay, so that should work. Oops. Forgot to close the game. This always takes a long time to reload. I kind of wish that Unity would automatically exit play mode if it has to reload the code if you left it in play mode, because every time I've ever tried to do it in all my years of using Unity, it never actually continues to play. It throws errors, so I don't really know the point of it. Okay, so again, I'm going to turn on the guess tester and inject a bunch of guesses from one user. Okay. Let's see. Oh, so it's going to keep on running continually because we don't get rid of the flow variable. But so it's found one unique guess, 1415, and then it tagged it as the featured guess. So it did work, but yeah, it created a bunch of objects we don't need. So let's make the next flow system, I guess, which will basically just watch for a featured guess entity, and if it's in the phase, and then it will just transition to the next phase. So featured guess picked watcher. And I'm gonna use the guess timer watcher as a base because it's gonna basically be the same type of thing. Okay, we don't actually need the timer here, so I can delete that. We don't. Well, we still need a query, but not the timer. So this will be featured guest query, and we're going to watch out for the featured guests. And then also require. Something got in my eye randomly. Singleton for update, and we'll be in the phase pick guess. Which I probably should add something like that to the guest timer watcher. And this would be phase accepting guesses. So now this will only run when that phase is there. So now this is pretty simple. All I have to do is, if this update ever runs, we'll just transition to the next phase. So I'll go ahead and keep this function like that, so that if I ever have to add any branches there. Okay, so what we want to do is remove the phase pick guess. We can leave the rest, and then I think I'll leave everything else how it is, because we don't really want to transition to the next phase yet. We just kind of want the game to stop picking guesses after that, so. Just noticed that for some reason Twitch decided to get rid of all of my tags on the stream. Okay. Anyway. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, I'm going to turn on the guest tester again and see what happens. After 5 seconds, it should pick the one guess, and it doesn't run anymore. So if we look, Flow Singleton now only has phase delete incoming guesses on it. Let's try to find the featured guess entity. Fortunately, they're not named, so. Okay, here. Yeah, so it picked 8 and 9, which is what got there. But yeah, there was only one guess for it to pick, because I think what it did was just insert guesses from the same user. So obviously there'd only be one picked. So let's do something a little more interesting. I think if I press 2, okay, it's invalid guesses. I'm not really care about that. So now it'll inject guesses from many users. Okay, but they all have the same picks, obviously, so they're all duplicates. So yeah, unique guess found 2, 3, and then duplicates are thrown out. And so the feature guess is 2, 3. So that was a good test. Now if I press 4, it's just gonna basically do all kinds of random values. So let's see what happens then. After 5 seconds, we should get some results. So feature guess was 11, 13. So it found a bunch of unique guesses. Did it find any? Okay, it does find some duplicates. I guess it'll be hard to test it really, but without reading all these values. So I should probably do something to test it a bit more thoroughly. But let's see. Wait, but this is kind of simple, but 13.5, I don't... Okay, so there was another 13.5 there. 13.7, oh, it's right there. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. I mean, yeah, obviously we'd want to do some more rigorous testing, but I'm not going to worry about it too much right now. Because it is basically all it does is check to see if the tiles are the same or if they're flipped, so it's not that complicated. The main thing I wanted to check was this part, because it adds items to the list if it's the first or only item of its kind. So we know that since let's see, 13.7 appeared twice, but it said that the first time it found it, it was unique, which is, I guess it's not really unique, but we still want to save one. And the main thing is that there's not two of the same value ever added to the list, and it looks like it did a good job weeding those out. Okay, so yeah, I guess we're done with that. I was trying to think if there's anything else, I mean, that I need to do. Okay, so next, I guess after, well, yeah, there'll be some animations and everything. So I guess what it would do now is reveal the two chosen tiles and see if it's a match or not, and then award points. So there's a lot going on there. I'm trying to decide. So obviously for now we just want to basically color the cubes based on their image when they're revealed. So probably what I should do is just tag the, because I have an entity, yeah, for each tile. So I should probably just tag it as revealed when it should show the actual value on it. But again, then there's going to be things like animations, but I guess that's done more on the front end, and the entity system doesn't really care about it. Yeah, so I probably should not worry about, yeah, I'm not going to worry about the animations right now because we just want to get the game logic set up, and then later on we can try and make it look good and add things like that. I'm trying to figure out the way I'd want it to be represented logically, because technically we have the featured guest, so it's going to show the two that are revealed. Oh yeah, we don't have it right now because it's not created yet, but and then, so do I want, we're going to need some way to store, yeah, which tiles have been revealed, but also when they've been matched, so that we know which tiles need to stay hidden. Okay, so I think the best way to do it is to tag the tile entities as revealed when they should be shown, either if they've been guessed correctly or if they're part of the featured guess. Alright, so first let's go ahead and So logically what would happen is when the next phase happens, which I guess would be, let's call it struct phase reveal guess. So all that happens here is immediately we check the featured guess, reveal the two tiles, see if they match. If they do, the tiles remain revealed. If they don't, the tiles would be hidden again. And then also the each player that guessed those two tiles would get some kind of points. So that would basically happen immediately, but we actually want to have a delay between the tiles being hidden again. So I guess we will have some type of animation logic. Okay. But first of all, here we just need to add the new phase component here. Okay, and so I'm just trying to think the best way to do this. Okay, let's do something featured guess tile revealer. And this will be, do I want it to be a job? It doesn't really need to be. Let's just go ahead and do it, because that way I can run on another thread. We don't care about that right now, thank you though. And let's update in the simulation system group. Okay, so what, oh yeah, I need to put this in the right namespace. What is it called? Twitch memory for systems. So what this will do is it will tag the tiles with revealed. And I guess if a guess is correct and they both match, it'll tag the tiles with matched. Well, do I want to do that? Because no, I think I'll have some other system will do that, because it will also need to send out an event so that another system can deal with the scoring. Yeah, okay, and then I'll have another system which will basically be the featured guest tile unrevealer, and it will run, I guess when this phase is done, that will unreveal, or basically will remove the revealed tag from any tile that has not been guessed. Yeah, or its pair hasn't been found. Okay, so what does this need to do? Let's start with the job. Private struct reveal worker, and this, I guess we could make it an iJob for each, because it's gonna work just for every featured guess. I need to get the right namespace. There we go. Okay, and the iJob for each, I don't know if I've ever used it yet in this project, but it's kind of just, I guess, a helper function. It pretty much does the same thing as an job parallel for, except it automatically gives you a reference to each component you want and makes it easy to write to these components, which is useful, but we're actually not going to be writing, so we can tag this as read only, which will help it run a little faster. And yes, you can tag arguments in a function. I didn't know that before I started using Unity's job system. Okay, and so what else do we need here? We want the entities for each tile. So we'll need a native array. Oh, I need to tag it as public. Is it just tile or what? Board tile? I think I call it like tile position. Yeah. But oh, I don't actually want that. I want the entity. So this will be tile entities. And I think their index here... Oh no, it won't match the tile positions. So I actually do need the tile position value as well. It gets a little bit more complicated. Tile positions. And so what I'll have to do is loop through the tile positions until I find the index of one that matches the guess. And if it matches the guess, then we'll tag that entity as revealed. So yeah, in order to do that, I'll also need command buffer. Okay, so public void. Oh, I guess it doesn't need to be public. Find tile for int I equals 0, I less than tile positions length. So we'll loop through each tile position, and then if the tile position at I position equals the index, or is the position... Okay, it is an index. I wasn't sure if it was an int1 or an int2, but anyway. Then we'll want to add the component to this tile, which I don't think I have a revealed component yet. Oh, I do. Okay, so I just created it already. Let's go ahead and have construct tile guest, or okay, let's call it tile paired, or pair guest. That means these tiles have had their pair guest already, so they would be excluded from other things. Okay, so now I need to pass the entity, which is this tile entities at this index we just found. Or wait, no, it's not index, it's I. So let's rename this to the board index, because it's the index in the board, which is different from the array index. Should make it a little bit more explicit. Actually, yeah, this should even just be the board position. Okay. I think that's all I have to do here. So I really just need to call find tile for Gus tile 1 and also for tile 2. Okay, and this can't be burst compiled, unfortunately, because the buffer is not compatible with burst yet. Which also reminds me I should get rid of the test things here so I can have this be compiled with burst again. Oh, that one doesn't matter, but... Okay. So Now, does the system that reveals the tiles, I don't think it watches for changes. Trying to find it. What did I call it? Feature guest tile revealing. Oh, that's what I'm working on right now. Guest timer starter, message restorer, out of phase, guest deleter, sequence initializer, game object creator. Okay, I think this was it. No. Okay, well, I really just need to find what uses this object or this component. Oh, tile face test. Okay, so it was in the test namespace. That makes sense. Well, if that's true, then I should probably just create a new one. Oh, well, this just creates different. Yeah, the tile face colorer isn't. Okay, so what this does is on update, it just sets the color for the material. It doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't watch for any changes. Of course, in the final game, we won't actually colorize the tiles. That doesn't really make any difference. Okay, so I'm gonna get rid of this because now we just want them to be revealed when they have the reveal component. Okay, so what I can do so I mean, I guess I could create another tag. And it would say that it's been updated in the UI. I'm not sure if that's the best way to do it, because I kind of don't really want to have the UI mess with the entity data. And also that would make it have to write... Well, I mean, does it really matter? Because it would make it have to change the chunk archetype multiple times. Or move the data. Let me see. Okay, well, let's just try it this way since it's seeming the most simple to me. Do I want to just have like a separate component? Let's just create it in here since it's kind of for testing as well. So this will be, I guess, tile color updated. Except now I guess we do have to worry about deleting this component. Okay, so this will be presentation, tile game object creator. So what I want to do, tile face query, I guess we'll still need that. Okay, so we get a tile that has the position and the image, but we actually need to be a little bit more specific now. So let's get the do an entity query description. So we want all components of tile position, tile image. Also, we want them to be revealed. Okay. And then we want none of this new tile color updated. So basically this will run on any tiles that have been revealed but don't have this tile component updated yet. Or tile color updated component yet. Okay, and so it will run only if that's there, and then also we'll get rid of that. Because that was just what would run after that command, but it's changing the way it's working now. So it grabs all these, and then it tries to find a tile with the same image. So that's fine. And then I also need to add this component now. So positions, image, let's see. So I guess I need to get the tile entities now. To entity array. And I'm gonna go ahead and dispose of it while I remember. Okay, and then I'll just call post update commands, add component, tile color updated. Oh, I need to pass the entity. Okay, so I think that's really as easy. I mean, yeah, that's pretty easy. That's all I have to do here. I think it's a little bit like obviously it doesn't unreveal a tile yet, but we'll want to do that separately. But like I said, so what happens is it has to wait 1 frame for the tile to be revealed, and then it would basically on the next frame it would add another component to it, so it would cause Unity to have to move this data around a lot. I'm not sure if that's really going to matter because, I mean, the tiles aren't going to be revealed that often. So I might just stick with this because it is kind of the simplest. The other way is that I'd have this kind of keep track of which tiles have been revealed or not, and then it would keep track of like in its own array, and then on every update it would loop through everything to see if it should be updated, but I don't know. I'm probably overthinking it. But what else was I gonna do? I thought I just thought of something that I needed to... Oh, right, so we haven't finished this yet. Oh, because I was thinking, when does this buffer run? Okay, so since this happens in the simulation system group, I should probably just have this buffer at the begin presentation system so that the tile face colorer can update immediately. So let's go ahead and do that. So first we're going to need an entity query for the tiles. Tile query, and we're going to need the buffer, our entity command buffer system for the command buffer, and then we'll override on create. Okay, and so tile query is what we've done a million times. We just get entity query, and we need tile position, and is that it? I think so. Don't really care if it's been revealed or not. And then the buffer system is just going to be world get existing system, and so it would be begin presentation. Okay, and then I need this to require for update. Okay, it wasn't showing up. And I guess we'll have this run. Oh no, this will just run all the time. Oh, one other thing you should do is obviously this job will only run if a featured guest exists. Yeah, so we don't want we only want this to run once, now that I think about it. So we'd probably want to tag the featured guests with something. We could just use the revealed tag. Do I have that? Okay, I do have the presented. Yeah, there's a couple things I'm a little... Okay, so this phase pick guest, for example, I'm just trying to think how I want to do this, because we don't ever want this phase to be active for more than one frame, which I guess is fine. But if it's only active, I mean, if it's active for more than one frame, then the featured guests picked, our picker would keep on picking new featured guesses, which we don't want. But if it only runs one frame, then obviously it can't have any like animations. So probably we'd want to have a separate phase for the animation, which makes sense. Yeah, so that's one good thing about using this like component control method, is that the phases don't have to be like mutually exclusive. So for example, we can have this pick guess and then also something, I don't know, phase picking guess animation, and then even if the phase pick guess is completed and is removed, this can still be ongoing. So I think that's what we'll do whenever we get to animations. So the reason I was thinking about all that is because similarly, we only want this to run one frame. So what would happen is we'll just remove this phase component when everything is complete. Alright, so I guess that's how we'll do it. So require singleton for update, phase, reveal guess. Okay, so here first we need to get tile positions. Equals tile query to component data array. And again, we'll get out a job handle, position, query, dependencies, and entities to entity array. This song's long. Okay, so this will be the entity query dependencies. Okay, and now we just need to create as a job to schedule it. So reveal worker. Oh, forgot the new keyword. Positions and entities. And then the buffer is just buffer system dot create command buffer. And then we'll schedule this to run. Okay, so you pass the component system to the worker so that it can basically get all the guesses. Or any entities, I mean. And then we want to have this run after the input dependencies and then after all the queries have been filled. Okay. What else? Yeah, so we need to dispose of these arrays now. So dependencies equals drop handle combine positions dot dispose and entities dispose, and then we need to return the dependencies. Okay. So I think we're ready to test this out. Did I should have checked to see if I actually added this state when. Okay, yeah, this should be add component instead of remove component. Now it's gonna have to recompile again. Alright, so let's see how this goes. Okay, so I'm going to leave the console open just so I can see if any errors pop up. Okay, so it got something. Let's see. Reveal worker is not declared read-only. Oh. Okay, so it's saying here, again, the iJob for each is really an iJob parallel for in the background. So it was saying that this isn't declared read-only and it's not thread safe. So something bad will happen if it runs. So in order to fix that, I just have to give it concurrent. Although it doesn't actually matter because there shouldn't ever be more than one featured guest, so really it wouldn't run concurrently. But I guess it doesn't know that. Okay, so let's... Oh yeah, I think the functions are slightly different. Okay, so when you work with a concurrent buffer, you also need to pass an index here. And the index just allows Unity to rewind the buffer in order that they're, I guess, received here. And, well, that's not even true. You want it to always run deterministically, but threads can kind of run at random speeds. So if you pass an index here, that means that it will always run in the order that the indexes are received. So you're supposed to do this by like an entity index, but as long as there's not like collisions where there's more than one index that's the same, it doesn't actually matter. So, well, I mean, it does matter sometimes, but it won't for this. Probably a more standard way to do it would be to use the iJob for each with entity, and maybe I'll just do this because it's technically better, but not really needed in this respect. But so we use the iJob for each with entity, and that will pass the entity and also an entity index for the featured guest entity. Let's call this G, and then I can pass this entity index. Or I'm just gonna call it the concurrent index. Okay, so now, yeah, this is how you should do it most of the time. So I'll just be good and and ride this whole thing out. But, so really just that index you pass to it helps Unity to always run the game the same way, even if the threads that execute the code execute in a slightly different order. You just really don't want that to change the logic of your game, because then it'll make it really hard to test. So that's kind of why they have that index there. Alright, so let's see. Hopefully it will work this time. Oh, yeah, I need to turn the tester on before I can inject anything. Let's give it... Oh, right, so it's still some kind of bug. Let's see, the previously scheduled job featured guest tile revealer, reveal worker, writes to data buffer. I must call... Oh, did I? Okay, I think I forgot. Yeah, I did. I forgot to tell the buffer system to depend on this thread, or this job. So you can see that even though there seems to be a lot of stuff that you have to keep track of using Unity's data-oriented code, it is pretty good about telling you if you forget to do something. Alright, let's wait for this to load again. Oh, keep forgetting to turn this on. I probably should just do it in the scene so that I don't have to keep on doing it every time I play. Okay, still getting some issues. Index 3 is out of range of 2 length. So where does that happen? The face... Okay, so now we're getting into logic and the color. File entities. Oh, okay, so the I, yeah, the I is for the faces and T is for the tiles, so that was just bad. Variable naming there. So let's rename these so that doesn't happen again. Okay. Hopefully no more silly mistakes like that. Oh, I forgot to turn that on again. Probably should reduce the timer now. Oh, look. So now 2 got revealed. And let's check on the systems. So the tile face color doesn't run anymore because some tiles have been tagged with the tile color updated. And if I look here, you can see this tile color updated only has 2, whereas where's the other one? So this has all the rest of the tiles. So yeah, now they're in separate chunks, which doesn't really matter that much, but it does slow down some things. So you kind of want to keep things in the same chunk as much as you can, but at the same time, at this point, it's probably better to be able to tag these tiles with the right components so that things make sense logically. I mean, we're still... Where's the... Oh yeah, here. So if we have stats... Yeah, we're still running at like 260 frames per second, so obviously nothing to worry about right now. It's funny, this subsync live system takes half a millisecond, and it's by far the slowest thing here. I'm not sure what's going on here. Oh, but the featured guest tile revealer keeps running. Okay, so that was actually the issue that I thought is going to happen, because this phase reveal guess is still active, so it runs every frame, but interestingly, it doesn't cause any issues. Because I thought that before, Unity would give you an error if you tried to add a duplicate component to an entity. I guess it doesn't anymore. Yeah, now this doesn't have multiple tile revealed on it. I mean, obviously it's still kind of gumming up the system because it takes quite a bit to run, but let's see what other systems run every time. Yeah, so our time manager, obviously, and then the chat command parser system, but that we'd want that to run every frame anyway. Okay, so I guess next. Okay, so this reveals tiles. Now we want something to check the featured guests and see if the tiles have the same image, and if it does, yeah, then so if it does, we want to tag both of the tiles with their pair guest, and then we'd also want to add score to users, but we don't really have any object that keeps track of users right now, so I'll wait to do that. Let's do so I guess this will be featured guess match checker. Could probably, oh no, that's not what I want to do. Probably the tile revealer I can use as a base for this. So featured guess match checker, and we'll update in simulation. So we need a query for tiles, and then we will need a buffer system because we'll add an entity to these. So yeah, these can stay. And we'll want these two things. So let's actually start with the job again. So the only difference here is instead, well, we still need tile positions, I guess, but we're also gonna need only the tile images. So native array tile image. So what this will do, okay, I guess I'll still have this, but we'll have it just return the index. And what'll I do if it doesn't find it? I mean, technically this should not happen, but I guess I'll just return. Well, do we want to just throw an error or what? Let's do that. It shouldn't ever happen, so yeah, we don't need to return the entity index anymore. So let's see. Tile a index. Oh yeah, it's tile 1 and tile 2. And then we just need to check to see if their images match. So if tile positions, oh wait, no, it said tile images. Tile 1 index image equals tile images tile 2 index. Then what I want to do is buffer add component, so tile pair guest for the entity for each. Oh, what's it not like? Oh, again, I have to give it the concurrent index, so that works. Okay, and I guess that's really it. And then I probably want to So obviously this doesn't deal with any user scoring, but I wouldn't want this job to do that because that seems like a job for another system. Okay. So I'm also going to want to make sure that there's tile images in here, so... Query to component data array. Image. So yeah, it's the same type of thing, except we're going to get... image, query, dependencies. Will it let me go to 4? No, okay. So I'm gonna have to do 2. Okay. Let's combine the dependencies up here. So this will just be query deps. Oh yeah, I forgot the S there, and then image query deps and entity query deps. It'd be nice if there was a way that you could make this a little cleaner, but okay. And then I also want to dispose of this here. And pass the tile images. Okay, and I also should rename this to check worker. Alright, so I guess let's put a debug log here. So let's see, guess is a match. And then otherwise it would be, I don't know, guess is not a match. Okay, and this will actually be kind of hard to test because I'll need to find the match myself and then enter that in a chat probably to be able to ever find a match. Let's just try it and see how it works. I guess I could just look in the entities and see which have the same number. That's probably how we'll do it, but for now, let's go ahead and just inject some random guesses. Make sure that there's no bugs. Okay, again, it's going to print guess is not a match forever because, again, it doesn't stop running. But at least there's no errors. So now let's try it again, and this time I'm going to see which tiles match. And then hopefully I'll be able to convert that to the chess indexes, but... Okay, so all entities 14, 2, 6, 0. Let's just find the 2 is 0. So this is position 4. Which is, I think, A2. And let's see, the other one, 0. So A2, okay, and 12. I'm gonna have to think about that one. A2. So, okay. First, I'm gonna add 1. Oh wait, no. So let's see here. So I guess 12, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Oh, okay, so it's just A4. Alright, so now I've guessed. Yeah, so 8, 4, and 12. And let's see what it said. So yeah, it did say guess is a match. Okay, so it does work. And we can see that the 2 revealed are also colored red. Oh, cool. So I think we're finally starting to get a sort of playable game. I'm just gonna guess something random just because I want to see the revealed tiles. So finally we can actually play it, but it doesn't really loop, obviously. Because if we guessed again, it would just throw it away, but... Okay, that's pretty cool. Well, I only have 2 minutes, and I think this is probably a good time to stop. So I guess I'll just call it here. Yeah, thanks everybody for coming by. I appreciate it. Again, I'm sorry for kind of another low energy stream, but this has been a kind of difficult week. So hopefully, well, I don't know. I don't want to talk about it too much because it's going to make me sad, but yeah. Hopefully I'll be able to get back to my normal streaming schedule pretty soon. But on a happier note, I will be back by Monday to stream, and we'll continue with this project probably. If you'd like to chat with me any time during the week, feel free to message me on Discord. If you'd like to be invited, I put links in chat, or you can check out my video description. I also have Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube if you like to check those out. And I think that's about it. So yeah, we'll continue here. And yeah, if you're thinking about it, you should try out the new version of Unity. It really does have some cool stuff, especially for the entities. I don't know if I got to really showcase it much here because this system, or this project's still pretty primitive. But yeah, I'm excited to play around with it. And so maybe by Monday I'll be able to show you some more stuff. So anyway, I'll see you then, and I hope you have a great weekend. Bye-bye.